How long can this back and forth go on before this does escalate into a wider war?
Thank you so much for having me back on. As you said, there is continuing skirmishes happening really around the region, not just between the Houthis now and increasingly the United States, but we're also seeing small-scale attacks happening between Hezbollah and the Israelis. We're seeing attacks in Syria and Iraq being carried out directly by the Iranians. The region is continuing to heat up. The Biden administration will continue to prioritize lowering the temperature, but as it does that, the Iranians will respond in kind because they see an opportunity and they see America's reluctance to engage. And so both Iran and its proxies are becoming increasingly emboldened at the region.
Well, one of those proxies, obviously, is the Houthis, and the Houthi chief, Abdul Malik al-Houthi, was in a televised address today where he essentially said they are now in direct conflict with the U.S. and the UK. They're taking concrete steps to improve their capabilities. How close are we, though, to a direct military confrontation between the U.S. or another Western country like the UK, and not the Iranian proxy, but Iran itself?
So we're certainly very close, and it's quite remarkable to see that both the Houthis and the Iranians are increasingly taking credit for attacks as they are happening, whereas previously they might have hidden from that. They really have been emboldened as they're engaging because, as I said, they see that U.S. reluctance. This could go on for quite a while. I think the challenge for the United States is to prevent a major escalation. So small attacks back and forth between the Houthis. There have been now 5 responses from the U.S. government. This can continue at this pace. The question is, will the Houthis ratchet up? The Houthis have really benefited on the international stage from the attention that they are getting as a result of their behavior. They were otherwise a relatively domestic force within Yemen, but they really seized on the conflict between Israel and Hamas to build a name for themselves on the international stage. And they have resources and training that they hadn't had before. And so the incentive is certainly there to continue in this back and forth. But so far, everyone is still keeping the temperature at a bit of a medium boil.
Enter Pakistan, Carmiel, retaliating against Iran after carrying out strikes against terrorist hideouts, they called it, in a couple of areas in Iran. How nervous does this make you as we feel the theater widening?
Yeah, for all the rhetoric between Iran, the U.S., and Israel, the United States and Israel have always had very clear red lines in terms of engaging with Iran in external theaters with other proxies. Never have either engaged directly within Iran's territory. Pakistan, Iran's neighbor, with whom it has both positive but also very complicated relations, has now entered into Iranian territory. This is really unprecedented and certainly sets the temperature that much higher. And so it really adds to the risk, and it adds to the concern of an Iranian response.
Well, and it's not just Pakistan that Iran has directly sent ammunitions to, essentially, has struck. It also was Syria in an attack on ISIS. And specifically, the weapons Iran was using in that case had the capability, according to Tehran, to go something like 1,400 kilometers. Effectively, they could reach Israel. Do you think Iran, given the broader climate in the Middle East, would be so brazen as to actually strike Israel directly?
The Iranian government is extremely unpopular at home. They are most effective when they are fomenting regional instability. They have become incredibly good at capitalizing on moments like this one to solidify their power and to retain their relevance and really undermine the goals of their enemies, whether it's the United States or Israel. And so what we're seeing is an Iran that has been emboldened, both in terms of the technology that they're using. We've also seen a rapid increase in Iranian uranium enrichment at home. The regime feels empowered by this moment and by American reluctance. How far they're willing to go is not yet clear. And while they control kind of at a macro level what their proxies are doing, at a micro level, they struggle to have day-to-day control. So Iran is going to have to decide whether or not they want to further engage the IRGC in what they're doing, rely more on Hezbollah and their proxies. But they are certainly bolder than they have ever been. It's hard to say where they're going to draw the line.
Carmiel, if we could turn our focus back to Israel for a moment. We haven't talked about the potential for a pause or a truce in some time, with the prospect of some 100 hostages still there. Is it even possible to restart that conversation, or are there back channels talking now that we should be aware of?
There are still 132 hostages being held in Israel, being held in Gaza, and a huge amount of pressure from the Israeli people on the Netanyahu government to negotiate some kind of a release. There are indeed back channels going on. We saw a negotiation that was successful over the last 24 hours that was negotiated in Qatar, in which Israel allowed for aid to enter into Gaza uninspected, which would include the delivery of medicine and assistance to those hostages. That would be the first time that assistance is going directly to the hostages. There's a lot of speculation that this was the first stage in what could be a wider negotiation for the release of hostages that would include a pause. I don't think any release of hostages will include the entirety of the hostages, but certainly there is potential for a few more to be released.
Carmiel, how long do you think it will be before Israel fully pulls its military presence out of Gaza? Are we realistically going to see that happen ever?
I think the answer to ever is yes, but not in the near future. What we've seen is Israel drawing down its forces in northern Gaza. They believe they have a better operational hold on what's happening in the Strip, and have less of a need for airstrikes. And so they've been moving into their second phase, where they're going to be engaging in more of a lower scale conflict in Gaza, securing the perimeter between Israel and Gaza, and then working more surgically to take out Hamas insurgents and leadership. I think that this stage will last for a very long time. We could be talking about months, if not at least a year. Israel is finally beginning to have discussions about what the day after will look like, but those discussions remain incredibly fraught while they are still very much in the midst of this conflict.